we had an amazing time working together, and there's something so well. Heather is like the drama queen. No, just kidding. But we had such an amazing time, and we got lucky that we all have such great chemistry, and we all adore and love each other.
That was my favorite thing about the shoot was you guys were so delightful to me on set. And then everybody became super great friends. And I would have to stay and work, and you guys would be off there having a good time. And I'm trying to pay attention to the camera. And I'm like, hey, guys, hey, oh. You guys coming back with music videos, and everybody's laughing so hard. I mean, that was the most unusual thing to me, to feel like I'm making a film in the middle of like the funniest.
Yeah, all the cool kids were going off to the mall, and you had to stay after school.
I had to stay after school watching it longingly. It was so funny.
Our next question, I just can't believe it, but we have a massive DC fan here. I think maybe some of you may recognize. Take it away, Venus.
Hi, it's Venus from Miami, so I'm a huge fan. I have a question. So who would win in a tennis match between Wonder Woman and Cheetah? And do you think they'll ever be able to put away their differences and team up for doubles?
I think both of you would overcome your differences to play doubles against her. You guys against each other?
I think Cheetah would win.
Really?
No.
Because Wonder Woman would have she'd have a gold tennis racket to go with everything, and it would just be too heavy, and I'm fast, and I just think I would win.
Very subjective. That's your perspective, and it's okay. I disagree with you on this one, but let's agree to disagree.
Well, then I'll see you on the court.
Okay, so now we're going to Poland with Mina, who has a question for Pedro. Does Pedro Pascal know how much he is loved and appreciated by his fans?
Oh.
Yeah. Do I know it? I love it, and I appreciate it, and it holds me up through the tough times like these. And I don't know, I'm just so grateful that question exists, basically.
Next up is a question from Salma in the US for Chris.
Hi, Chris. I'm so happy and so excited for your return to Wonder Woman 1984. My question to you is, how does it feel to be the fish out of water in the 80s from your return, now having Diana Prince got you around?
Yeah, that interest and curiosity, I would say. It was kind of like it was a good lesson for me as a human being to remind myself to open up and not be so cool, not be so over everything. And, and my job again is to be in love with Gal, which is not a hard gig, and try to make her giggle, which is always fun.
He does so much more than that, but I like that you always sum it up that way.
Now we have a video questions for everyone from Erin Lynch in the US.
Hi, my name is Erin, and I just wanted to know, what was your most memorable moment on set? Thank you. I love you.
Yeah.
We love you back.
I know what mine is. When Gal and I were fighting. Well, I mean, the characters were fighting.
Yeah.
And we were practicing this stunt, and we got it down, and it was great, and it was going really well. And she grabbed my hair, I think, and wig just came.
You grab it? It got stuck in my gun.
Oh, it got stuck in your thing. And I don't know if we were tired or also it was just, we laughed so hard.
Mine was in Washington. I mean, the fact that we'd shut down all of Pennsylvania Avenue to make this huge film, the little 8-year-old kid in you is can't believe that you're doing what you're doing and that you get the privilege of doing it. I don't know, it feels like a dream in some kind of way, like you're stepping into the fantasy of playing make-believe on this scale in all the films that you ever wanted to be in as a kid. So that was a pretty special moment, I think.
Can I change my answer?
Yes.
That was was so beautiful.
We've got one last question from a very special guest.
Oh my God!
You look so beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, Linda, look at you.
Linda, everybody, Linda Carter, the reason that we're all here.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Patty. Hello, Gal. Hello,
Mama Bear.
Chris, Pedro. Oh my God, Gal. Hello, you beautiful woman.
Hi, Linda.
How are you?
The one you-
It's such a delightful surprise to have you here.
Thank
This is
you.
so great.
I'm so glad. We think about you every day, Linda, and we talk about you all the time. So this would not be a Wonder Woman panel, truly, if we didn't see your face. So it's so good to see you. So good to have you.
I'm so excited. I've never met you. I've watched your show when I was younger. I had Wonder Woman underoos, and I'm so excited to meet you.
Kristen.
Yes. I was also Wonder Woman for Halloween when I was a little girl. I mean, I'm like so excited to meet you.
Kristen, I think you're so great. So we have a mutual admiration. And anytime when I meet you, will you do me a favor? Will you just throw your arms around me?
Yes, I would wish I could right now.
I'm beyond excited. I'm beyond excited. You know that I have been a fan from day one of Patty's when she was first attached to this film. When my daughter saw Gal as Wonder Woman, she said, "Mom, I finally get it. I finally understand why everyone idolizes you. I finally get what Wonder Woman means to everyone." You know, and that's my daughter. That's my flesh and blood. So thank you, Gal. Thank you, Patty.
That's such a great story. Thank you, Linda. That's such a great story. And like the first time I ever called you, Linda, I said to you, I want you to know we're not here to reinvent Wonder Woman, and we're not here to do a new chapter of Wonder Woman. We just hope to take the torch and pass it forward. And so that means the world to me, because I was that person who was so moved by you and your performance and the show, the beautiful show that you guys did. So being able to know that somebody as important as your daughter acknowledged that we could be having that effect on her is like a huge compliment.
You are a true life Wonder Woman, and I can't be more grateful to have your guidance and to be able to call you Mama Bear. And knowing your children now, thank you for everything that you've done personally for me, and I'm sure to the world. And this thing is whole because you're here.
Oh,
Love you, Linda.
We love you, Linda.
so
Yeah.
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 Whoop, whoop.
We also had some submissions from fans that sent us pictures of their cosplays and fan art.
Oh my God.
I love that one.
Yes.
Exactly like having Linda here. It's like the classic. Like, who doesn't love to see
Cool.
The star pants, they're so cool.
gorgeous?
Super
Right.
sexy.
Rocking it.
I know she looks amazing.
I
Yes.
Yeah.
When men do that.
Yeah.
I love when I see people like a man or different people do Wonder Woman, because it really does go to the core of like, we are all Wonder Woman, and that armor can mean something different on all these different people. And that's a great Wonder Woman costume. I love it.
I love the
Rocking it.
armband.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Because I felt like,
Wow, this is from the first one.
yeah, the recreation on the beach and everything,
Oh,
like
that was your stunt double.
caught the spirit.
Amazing.
Like beautiful work, beautiful detail.
Oh, look at that shield. Oh my gosh.
I know, amazing.
Wow.
It looks exactly like the original one.
Oh,
It's like the Norman Rockwell of Wonder Woman things, and so perfect because it's exactly why we're all here. It's like,
look at the shoes she's wearing.
I know, so
That's always
The
what
red
makes me
heels.
emotional about this character, that, like, you know, we were talking numerous times about the fact that, you know, we've seen so many male superheroes, but we haven't seen enough female superheroes. And for girls, for little girls, once they see it, they believe it, you know? So for little girls to be exposed to these type of movies, whether if it's Wonder Woman or any other female-driven movie in this genre, is so important, because then, you know, it's so empowering. I love this piece of art.
this is such a gorgeous graphic one.
Yeah, I think I posted this one.
Yeah, I love the beautiful, you know, like a different culture being brought to a hero because it is so universal. And so I love seeing different people take it on and turn it, you know, bring it into something so personal to them. It's just beautiful art too.
I love the bracelets.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
I thought this was such a great one.
Oh my
because
gosh, that's so
I just love the spirit of, you know, maybe this is Nubia, you know, and I love that it's the different Wonder Woman characters, and it's a beautiful piece of work, and yeah, beautiful art.
Before we wrap up, Patty, before we say goodbye, I know, and more importantly, the fans here know that you wouldn't have come to the DC fandom without a little something extra for them, right?
That's right, guys. We are so excited to get to be here and see everybody and get to talk to everybody and answer questions for everybody. But it wouldn't quite be a good fan event if we didn't share a little something back. So we have our second official trailer to show you guys right now.
This world is not yet ready for all that you will do. The time will come, Diana. And everything will be different.
Citizens of the world, I'm here to change your life. Anything you want. Anything you dream of, you can have it. Look like you saw a ghost. Diana, look at you. It's like not one day has passed.
I don't want to be like anyone. I want to be an apex predator.
You've always had everything, while people like me have had nothing. Well, now it's my turn.
Get used to it.
I've never been one for rules. The answer is always more. The way I fly, they will never find us.
I forgot to tell you.
What?
Radar.
Will they shoot at us?
Barbara, what did you do?
You know, I'm not so keen on this one. I figure you are, but you know what? I'm ready to go.
I think we can do better.
Parachute pants?
Yeah.
Does everybody parachute now?
That was great.
That was
amazing.
Thank you,
right?
Patty, for this. Thanks.
Okay,
Can't wait
and
to share more.
that, I think you have, as they say, drop the mic.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with everybody. You guys, I miss you so much.
Patty, Gal, Chris, Kristen, Pedro, thank
excited before, but now I literally cannot wait for this film to hit the big screen. I'm so excited to be hanging out with all of you today here in the DC FANDOME. I'm a huge fanboy myself, and together we are the reason comic books are published. We are the reason superhero movies and TV shows are made. So today, it's all about us, the fans. In fact, to celebrate you and your fandom, we are highlighting your art submissions and creative cosplay. Take a look at this art from some incredibly talented fans.
I am going to do as many jumps as I can do in a minute.
I'm not really a sporty person. I can fly. I do running and things.
My mask has cat ears and it covers my nose. Yeah.
I do running. Do.
I run and then I jump off. Oh, easy peasy. Now I'm going to see how many hops I can do.
Are there any gamers out there? What? I can't hear you. That's more like it. Now, I think it's safe to assume that the gamers are sitting on the edge of their gaming chairs right now, glued to their screen and twitching with excitement for our first big Warner Brothers games announcement. So, to tell us more about it, please welcome Billy Batson's alter ego, Zachary Levi.
Hello, interwebs. It's Zachary Levi, your favorite household Shazam. Many of you guys know I like me some video games. I'm a gamer ever since I was a little kid, which means I'm very excited to be revealing a brand new video game from Warner Brothers Games. We're going to meet the creative team in just a moment, but first, some brand spanking new footage from said game. We're about to play it right now for all of us. I've never seen it, so we're going to experience this together. Let's take a look.
In breaking news, we've received reports of an explosion somewhere north of the city.
We're still waiting for the police to confirm if there are any victims. This story is evolving rapidly. Please bear with us.
We heard this really loud boom. There was smoke everywhere.
Emergency services have confirmed that they've discovered a body buried in the wreckage. We're still waiting for further details.
Emergency vehicles are that a large portion of the building has actually collapsed.
In international news, an explosion rocked Gotham City earlier today.
We are now able to confirm that billionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne is...
If you're watching this, I'm dead. This is a code black. This message was automatically triggered when I destroyed the cave and everything it contained. We both know it won't take long for Gotham's criminals to realize that Batman is gone. And he can't count on the GCPD. Haven't trusted us since Jim died. Gotham will need its protectors more than ever. I'm leaving you the Belfry as base of operations. Some of the technology is outdated, but it has the gear you need and all of my files. You've always had my back when I needed you. I know you'll keep Gotham safe. Good luck. And goodbye.
No one talks about them. Not a whisper word is said. For if you try to crush them, then the town strikes you dead.
I'm Patrick Redding.
I'm Fleur Marty.
We're both from Warner Brothers Games Montreal, and we're both thrilled to finally be able to show you Gotham Knights.
You may be wondering why we chose to tell this story and focus on these characters.
We wanted to shake up the status quo of Gotham City. We wanted to see what happens when you take away the safety of Batman's presence and then find out what happens. What happens when these heroes, the Bat Family, Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood, and Robin, have to step up and take on the role of new protectors of Gotham.
What's really exciting about Gotham Knights is that you, the player, will be able to grow these characters how you see fit. You get to see how you would step up and become Gotham's protector. You're not trying to become the new Batman. You're becoming your own badass superhero.
And as a bonus, we brought gameplay footage. This is captured in-engine from a recent build, and we just can't wait for you to see this. Take a look.
Need paramedics, ASAP! All units, shootout in progress at Elliott Center.
Don't blast it. Too many. We can't respond to them all. Where the hell is our backup?
Belfry, Elliott Center is covered in ice. Whatever's causing this is localized at the top.
Definitely freezes handiwork. You'd best hurry.
That's what the bike's for.
units at Elliott Center. Air support inbound. Hostiles opening fire on upper floors. Air support, can you do a fly around?
On it.
We need a way to get through that ice.
We need to let past these guys first.
Looks like Freeze is back for vengeance.
If he wants a fight, he'll get it.
We need a tank to get through that much ice. How are we supposed to stop ice guns?
I'm one word for it. Just a heads up, the chopper's under orders to fire on anything that moves inside.
to the original work, because why wouldn't you? Effectively, there is nothing needs really changing. Occasionally, here and there, one might just, you know, touch slightly on the steering wheel, but there is nothing much you need to do. And they just rock. They totally rock. So Neil as narrator now is being Neil the writer. We're in his head, and then off the page, I'm going to extend this metaphor to snapping point, come the characters and we get this wonderful sort of sense of being inside Neil's head, the nicer part, the classy part.
The classy part. Okay, well, besides the star actors, you had to cast something like 150 other parts. Kudos to you. What was that process like, Dirk?
Well, I've got to say, our casting team, Marielle and Nicola, who were doing a lot, did a fantastic job. There are way many more parts than we could comfortably deal with in a given situation, with a studio that probably held 6 people and was really only built for 1. If you know the Marx Brothers works, you'll know there's a thing called the stateroom scene where they're trying to cram into a cupboard on a boat. Well, that's kind of how it was in this situation. I had to think of a way through this, and I thought what we need is all the very best audio voice actors in London. And London is a really good place to get voice actors because, of course, BBC still runs spoken word and drama and so on and so forth. So actors as busy as Michael and James, who was in a play at the time, you know, you're not expecting to see them. You're getting people who normally would get a marquee, who are coming in as part of the ensemble, and everybody kind of checked their egos at the door. And we ended up with a really lovely situation. There were certain episodes, like, for example, A Midsummer Night's Dream, where the temperature in the studio kind of climbed into the late 90s. But the upside was that the cast, we were pretty much doing the story from soup to nuts. So if you're in the room with them, you're watching one of Neil's greatest stories just happen in front of your eyes with a bit of extra Shakespeare here and there. So it was a wonderful experience.
Speaking of the amazing cast, we are joined by the devilish Michael Sheen. Welcome to the panel, Michael.
Hello, Yvette. How you doing?
I'm good. So happy to have you with us. So, Michael, now you are on the hot seat. How did you put your spin on Lucifer?
I mean, I remember when I first read Sandman, I'd left Wales to come down to London to go to drama school. And one of my fellow classmates at RADA, within the first few weeks, said to me, do you read comic books? And I said, no, I don't. And I thought, like superheroes? I'm not really into all that. And sorry, DC. And he said, here we are. And he gave me some Alan Moore. You know, he gave me V for Vendetta and Watchmen and Swamp Thing and Constantine and Sandman. And I remember reading the first few Sandmans, and it just sort of, it did literally change my life. It sort of both reinforced what I was already interested in, but opened doors to whole universes for the rest of my life. I mean, it created my taste, really, I suppose. It led me to finding out about Joseph Campbell and comparative mythology and Carl Jung and I mean, all kinds of stuff. It just blew my mind. And certain things really stayed with me. And one of those things was the character of Lucifer, when you first meet him early on in the story, and that kind of young Bowie look. That image had really stayed with me. So when I came to do Lucifer, that was there at the back of my mind. And I loved the idea of someone who looks very angelic. I mean, he is an angel. He's the fallen angel. And that young Bowie with the curly blonde hair is very angelic and sort of chirpy. Hello, you know, and it takes you by surprise. You're expecting Lucifer to be Lucifer. And of course, you don't have to. It's like, hello, Dream, how are you? And I love that idea of sort of surprising the audience and pulling the rug out from under their feet, which Neil is so brilliant at. And of course, the first thing I ever saw to do with the Sandman was the cover of Preludes and Nocturnes, the Dave McKean art. And even from that, I knew I was entering into a whole other world. And then, of course, getting to know Dave many years later was a bit of a dream come true.
He is such a singular talent and such a singular vision. It was weird with Sandman. I think we had this huge fight on our hands right in the very beginning when we told DC that the title character Morpheus would not be on every cover. I remember them coming back going, but how will people know this is Sandman? And we said, well, because the word Sandman will be on every cover. And having lost that battle, they never fought again. They were like, okay, well, obviously we don't know what this thing is, and they're doing things that break all the rules because you have to have the character on the cover, and they aren't. So they're just doing their thing. And it really was Dave having that fight. And also around Sandman 9, Dave refusing to be fired. Karen Berger fired him. He was in New York, and she said, we don't have time for you to do any more Sandman covers. Then he said to me, I've been fired. And I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to spend the next 2 days painting the next 8 Sandman covers, and then I'm going to send them over to her, and I'll see what she says. And that's what he did. He just made the rest of the Doll's House covers.
Amazing.
He did all the covers and sent them over. And what was she going to do? They were brilliant.
Of course, I'd spent a fair amount of time with Neil fairly recently when we did Good Omens together. So I got used to Neil being on the other side of the camera and close to me, which I liked. But he's sort of creeping ever closer, like a game of Grandma's Clock. Is that what it's called? Where, you know, every time I look around, he's not behind the camera now. Now he's actually standing next to me in the recording studio, narrating the damn thing. I mean, if he gets any closer, we'll have to have an operation to be separated.
I love the fact that I get to work with Michael. Michael and I have been friends since 2010. And we've been working together since 2017, and just I get to just admire him as an actor more and more, and the very, very peculiar feeling of having my friend Michael standing next to me in the studio and opening his mouth, and this voice that basically belongs to David Bowie playing Lucifer coming out of his mouth. And I'm just sort of looking and going, how does he do that? How can that work? And I forget that my friend Michael is also one of the greatest actors of our age. It was an absolute delight. We were incredibly lucky at the kind of cast who came out for Dirk, and also who came out for Sandman, because we're lucky in that there are Sandman fans everywhere. And we get to punch above our weight. You know, we get to get Willow coming in and writing The Dreaming because she was a Sandman fan and she wants to write Sandman. We get Michael Sheen, we get Kat Dennings, we get these amazing people coming in and fighting to do it because they love Sandman. And we are so lucky in that.
Like we said earlier, the Sandman is in dozens of languages and has been in print continuously for over 30 years. Why do you think the Sandman not only endures, but transcends media?
For me, the answer is that I really didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know what I was meant to be doing, and I didn't know how to do it. And I did it anyway. Mm-hmm. And that just doing it also meant that everything I was seeing, everybody I met, every thought going through my head made it onto the page. And every way that I could tell stories, I was telling stories, I was trying new things. And I think that it hasn't aged and it hasn't dated in probably the way that it should. You can absolutely see places where it's completely of its time, and you can see places where my heart was in the right place, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I think that's fine and that's forgivable, because overall, I think I, along with dozens of astonishing artists and along with people who are unsung, like Todd Klein, our amazing letterer who did miracles that then nobody notices are there, you know, creating lettering font styles for characters like Delirium or Dream or Desire. I thought I was making something completely disposable. If I'd known I was making something that would last, I probably would have had a lot more attention, and it probably wouldn't have worked.
How about the rest of you? Why does it transcend for all of you, you think?
Like I said, it sort of changed my world, really. It gave me an introduction to things that have had a huge impact on my life and who I am today. And it led me, it is a story about stories. And as such, as Neil said, he wanted to come up with something that allowed him to tell whatever story he wanted. And because of that, it roams across time and space and through mythology and history and Shakespeare, it was such an explosion of the imagination and creativity. And yet at the same time was grounded in a real kind of edgy, earthy realism as well. So it had something for everyone, but instead of being a kind of jack of all trades, it seemed so specific. And it was just like, it's like when I, as an actor working on Shakespeare, you can literally feel your brain expanding, like your consciousness growing because of what Shakespeare does in his plays. And reading The Sandman was a similar experience for me. I could feel my consciousness getting bigger because of what was in it and what it introduced me to. And because it is about sort of primal, deep things like the dreaming, like reality and concepts like fairy, and it of course it's timeless. It's about the endless, and the story itself is endless, and so it will go on forever.
Speaking from the point of view of adapting it to another medium, what's great about it is that it's doing everything that Michael's just described. It's this enormously, the conceit of it, and I'm not using conceit pejoratively there, but the scale of the imagination, all of Neil's misspent years in libraries as a kid, all that reading is just pouring out on the page, a sort of torrent, like a dump tank of ideas. And to have started this journey in audio, particularly where we're sticking very close to the originals, is great, because I know, well, we all know where it's going to go, but the journey of discovery is getting an actor. When Michael comes in and starts playing Lucifer, I'm thinking, oh, wow, I can't wait to hear where this is going to go. And of course, we have all that to look forward to, and the rest of the cast as well. So, hats off to Neil. It's an astonishing piece of work.
Willow, how about you? Why do you think The Sandman endures?
To me, what was really astonishing about Sandman, especially the first time that I read it through as a teenager, was that unexpected people were at the center of the story. I think, we're kind of taught to look to the most obvious figures to be heroes, the politicians, the famous people, all of this. Whereas in Sandman, the guy sitting next to you on the bus could be Lucifer or the King of Dreams. And as such, you get stories about characters who I think were kind of pushed to the margins, especially at the time in other types of stories, right? And now they're at the center. And that makes you look twice at the world around you. It makes you sort of question, who is telling the story, and what point of views are we missing, and who is unmourned. That also really struck me, is that, this came out in the middle of the AIDS epidemic when, a lot of people were trying to push, these deaths and this terrible thing that was happening under the rug. And Sandman said, no, pay attention. This is important. These people are important. And that was very striking to me. And I think that's part of the reason that it still feels so relevant, because it kind of reminds you there are still stories we haven't heard. There's still things we're afraid to talk about. And it's the people around you who could be the true spinners of tales. And that really has stuck with me through the years.
Well, that answer was amazing.
I've thought about this a lot.
Oh gosh, it's so good, you Willow. I want to thank all of you for this wonderful time. I had the best time talking to all of you. But before we go, we can't forget about the dedicated fans. We asked and they responded, and we get it. You want to know about the Netflix show. So Neil, can you tell us anything? We've been asked about when it will be released. We've been asked about the cast details. What can you tell us, Neil?
Well, I can tell you that due to COVID, everything, as with every other piece of television being made around the world right now, somebody pushed a giant pause button. And we've taken advantage of our pause button just to try and get the scripts as close to perfect as we possibly could, which has been really fun. And that right now, as the universal pause button is starting to come off, we're starting to cast again. I'm getting these inspiring and wonderful emails with production designs, with places that I've only ever seen in the comics before, now being rendered in 3D, and I'm being asked to comment on it. That's amazing. There's not a lot I can say. Something that I will say is part of the joy of doing the audio adaptation was going, this is going to be the nearest thing we can do to an audio book of those first 3 graphic novels, and hopefully all of the graphic novels. And we're going to start it in 1988. And it's going to end in about 1991 or 1992. Sandman is a very compressed story, even though it takes place all through time and space. That's where that story takes place. What we're doing with Netflix is saying, okay, it's still going to start in 1916, but the thing that happens in Sandman 1 you have.
Already Batwoman kind of stands out because she doesn't technically have like a superpower. Everything that she uses to fight bad guys is more of her intelligence and Luke and her physical strength. So I do look forward to seeing that, or for playing in that perspective, like from a Ryan perspective, from like this street kid's perspective, from a person that saw these superheroes growing up, because that was also really important for Ryan, you know, to see Batwoman be an out lesbian and to have a, you know, a superhero role model to look up to. And then now all of a sudden I'm filling those shoes. So to not only fill those shoes, but to play amongst the ones that have already been doing it, I think that that's going to be a lot for her. I'm sure it's going to be a culture shock for her, but I also think that it's really cool because it's really like when that world meets the superhero world and it's in all of its dynamics.
Hola mi gente, I'm Gabby Cam, your host from Mexico City.
and Jay Garrick at the very same time, and created the architecture that would allow DC to be expansive, inclusive in their storytelling and in their universe, and is the world that fans now know, and also laid the groundwork for the ambitious crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Crisis on Infinite Earths brought the DC multiverse to fans, bringing together DC superheroes and supervillains in a truly epic event. But this is not the first time DC has explored the multiverse, and trust me, it will not be the last time fans will see it, as DC is fully embracing this exciting creative concept and how it can open up endless opportunities for storytelling for our comic books, TV shows, film, and games creators. Here in the DC FANDOME, I am so excited to have our own crossover moment and talk about what the multiverse really is for DC, how it informs every story DC tells, and how fans can expect to see it on the page or on the screen moving forward. I'm Tiffany Smith, and I'm so excited to welcome our panelists here today. First up, we have got a legendary comic book artist in his own right. He is also the chief creative officer and publisher for DC, and he sits at the heart of everything DC does and is a master of the multiverse, Jim Lee.
Thank you.
Next up, he oversees DC's films, which run the gamut from The Joker to Aquaman, and has huge plans for where DC movies are about to go next. Walter Hamada, how you doing, sir?
Hello, I'm good. Great to be here.
And finally, one of the key architects of DC's Arrowverse and the amazing Crisis crossover event, he is executive producer of nearly a dozen fan-favorite DC shows like Batwoman, The Flash, Supergirl, Doom Patrol, Titans, and the upcoming Superman and Lois, and many, many more. It's Greg Berlanti. How are you?
Very good, very good. Great to be here.
Let's just kind of go to the top of it, and I'm going to go to you, Jim. What exactly is the DC multiverse for people who may not know?
Yeah, I think when people think about superheroes, they know the names, the costumes, the powers, the origins, and it kind of tends to be this sort of monolithic kind of thing. But one of the things that really is distinct and unique to DC is that it's the first large work of fiction that has leaned upon this idea that we are not alone. We have this reality, this earth, but that there are alternate realities that sit side by side with us, and the infinite number. And on each of these different earths, we exist, but maybe in slightly different variations, right? We might be a different gender on another planet, or we might be furry creatures. And this extends to all the superheroes. So you start seeing this kind of endless spectrum of characters that you can create. And so it allows us to have the freedom and to create different versions and then lean upon that canon as we, change up the mythology and the pantheon of characters to better reflect the true diversity and inclusivity that our audiences want and that our audiences live in.
And you kind of touched on it already, Jim, but let's go to you, Greg. How do you feel like the multiverse really informs the stories that you tell through DC TV?
I would say that when we started out just with Arrow 8-9 years ago now, it wasn't our intention to just replicate what everyone had done so brilliantly in comics, and it wasn't until The Flash came along and we tried in the pilot of The Flash to put the two of them on screen together that I remember watching that first scene of the two of them together and thinking like, oh wow, this makes me feel like the DC books made me feel, like 1 + 1 = 3. The other thing it allows for is the vastness. You really feel the vastness of each of these different worlds, and I think it adds to the importance of these heroes and the myth of them, and that's been really exciting. And again, the element of surprise. If the universe that everyone's constructing, the different showrunners and creators and directors, and obviously with Walter and Jim helping shepherd all of it, if it can go to all those different places and still be tethered together. I think just as an audience member, I want to show up and not know like who might I see here, and I think that's incredibly exciting.
Well, and I think it's something too where you talk about comic book writers getting to play with the characters in different ways. Same thing on the TV shows where it's when you bring a character from one show into another show, those writers now get to play with that character or a different version of them, which I think the fans, myself included, have loved seeing on TV.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun for the actors. They love it when they play a villain version of themselves from another planet. Everybody loves to play a villain.
You face some of the greatest evils known to man, and you've defeated them. You think so highly of yourselves that you can defeat any threat that comes your way.
How do you feel about us?
And like you said, you weren't really thinking at the outset about getting to this place of Crisis on Infinite Earths and seeing all of that. Can you talk to us a little bit about just leading up to that and everything that happened before, and maybe like when you got to the point where you're like, yeah, this is something we really want to talk about?
Well, I mean, really, it was so much of our motto behind the scenes was to try and create episodes and seasons and shows that we would want to watch. And so it just inevitably kind of kept going in that direction. One of my fellow EPs, Mark Guggenheim, is my own personal encyclopedia for a lot of knowledge of these things, and was really, the centerpiece of production-wise pulling the scope of those things together. And I would be remiss if I didn't just say just how much his own passion for all that has been, very inspiring. But we sort of kept, building block by block, and then truly in the last couple of years, and again, in working with Walter and with Jim, it's really it's kind of taken a whole new level. We never thought we'd even be allowed to do Crisis, it was a pipe dream. We just kind of kept finding new ways to get all of our characters together. And then, the year before we did Crisis, we said, well, what if we just say coming next year, Crisis, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, you can say that. Well, and I was like, well, I guess they've approved it then. Now and that it was really epic. I mean, there were just so many, obviously, so many Easter eggs and so many different little characters. But then, the guys calling about saying that if we could we possibly fit in Ezra? Is that a possibility? That's really for the first time historically, combining a TV character and a film character in that way. Is, I think it feels like the beginning of a whole new generation of how we can begin to do these things. And that's just as a storyteller, that's really, really exciting.
Well, I feel like a kid in a candy store being like, we got Crisis on Infinite Earths, what's next? But can you talk a little bit about what's going to happen in the world post Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Well, we are, yes, because because certain worlds have been combined, we're mindful of that now, in terms of how that will affect certain shows. And, in terms of what our crossover event will be next year, I think truly because of COVID right now and the pandemic, our aspirations aren't quite as large. We'd just like to start shooting again. That would be, nuts. Happy to invite any feature characters that the guys want to have on. I think that was truly a thrill.
How did that crossover event happen with Ezra? And talk about the conversation of when you guys were like, could this work? Can we get him here?
We'd been developing on the feature side our Flash script for a while, which was leaning into the idea of the multiverse and playing in that sandbox. And again, I'm focused very much on the movies and what we're doing. And Jim was just like, would you, since we're leaning into the multiverse, do you think Ezra would ever do this crossover? I picked up the phone, called him, and before I could even finish the pitch, he was like, I'm in. Tell me when, where. Like, he's just such a fan, I think, of the character and I think of the universe, and he understands the importance of Flash and the character of his role sort of in that idea of the multiverse, that he immediately jumped on it. And then at that point, it was just Jim ran with it.
We were in a meeting, I think it was Walter, me, Peter Roth was there. We kind of threw out this idea, and Peter was like, let me talk to Greg about this. And this was last minute too, right?
But we had shot the crossover. So
yeah, exactly. This is like right before the holidays.
We were editing. And so the first call was like, well, wait a second. Can Flash also bring us back in time to do this? Because,
exactly. Yeah, so we're on the holidays. I knew that we're down the wire, but I knew how meaningful this would be to the fans, just because Flash's meeting created the multiverse. That the fact that this had never been done before, and that this was new footage. A lot of the stuff, like with Green Lantern, was kind of old footage. This was new stuff, and we had to track down the costume for Ezra. Luckily, he still fit into it. And Peter, spoke with Greg, and Greg graciously allowed us to do this at the last minute, very last minute. And Mark wrote dialogue at the last second, sent it over. It had to be kind of vague enough to not create too many expectations, but kind of solidify the fact that this is happening, that these Flashes are both the Flash in different universes. And the cool thing is, Ezra's Flash was never named the Flash in the movies. He got his name from meeting Grant, who knew he was a Flash. And like that's like so cool to have that introduction of into the canon, right? And so that was it. And it came together the last minute, and you know, it worked out great. Those guys kind of improvised and the lines, and
they definitely improvised.
It's a lot of improvisation.
It was touching and funny, and it was just a great moment. And then when it went live, man, people's heads exploded. And then I think,
well, there were a lot of people who worked on the show and had shot the episode and didn't know that it was in there. So they were watching. There were people that had been in the episode that were watching it live that night that wrote me and said, "I didn't know about this. Did you keep this a secret from me?" And I was like, "No, I wasn't. We just did it last week."
Yeah.
Is this cosplay? Oh, do you want a selfie, bro?
No,
I'm sorry.
We're not. No, I'm also the Flash.
You're also the what?
The Flash.
The Flash? The Flash.
It's complicated.
I like your outfit. It seems
freaking
comfy.
Yours is pretty cool.
Smooth.
Seems safe and
breathable. I'm Barry Allen. No! What does that mean? How can this...
This should be impossible now.
It should be impossible.